School of Government and Public Policy. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all our new students and their parents in the open house. We have with us today our founding Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. C. Rajkumar, Professor and Dean R. Sudarshan, distinguished professors, and our students from our latest graduated batch of BA Honors Economics and Masters in Public Policy, and our new cohort of batch 2020 and their parents. So I am privileged to introduce you with our founding Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. C. Rajkumar, Dean of Jindal Global Law School, Director, International Institute for Higher Education Research and Capacity Building. I would like to invite you to welcome our new students and their parents in this very open house. So,
a very good evening to all of you. First of all, I would like to welcome the new batch of the Jindal School of Government and Public Policy students who are joining both the BA Honors Economics program as well as the MA in Public Policy program. On behalf of the Dean of the Jindal School of Government and Public Policy, Professor Sudarshan, and on behalf of the faculty as well, it is my proud privilege to welcome all of you to this welcoming session. Normally, we might have done this in Delhi or in other places, or even would have brought you to campus. But given the extraordinary situation that all of us are facing, we have ended up doing it this way. So what I want to do is that I want to take this moment to give you a brief introduction to the university, and after which also request Dean Sudarshan to say a few words, and then spend a substantial amount of time as an open house Q&A session, because we want to make this as interactive as possible. It's a no-holds-barred conversation in which I would like parents and students to be able to ask any question to me, and I would like to spend at least 1 hour with you, and then we will have another 1 hour with the faculty members so that they can also take other questions that I may not be able to take after that hour. So first and foremost, congratulations for having been admitted to the JSGP. I know that the high school students who have completed 12th standard, you have not even been able to take a proper break. You are obviously very anxious about the future, but also have not been able to really rejoice the success of your 12th standard examination. I also know that the graduates of various disciplines who are choosing to join the JSGP's MA program, you have also not taken a proper break and traveled around and hanged out with your friends. All this anxiety is in front of you as you prepare and plan about your future. All I can say is that this is a very difficult time. You will always remember your own high school years and graduating years when you graduated in 2020, when the entire world was facing the COVID-19 crisis. So in some ways, this is also an opportunity to thank your parents and them for their contribution in your life, which has brought you to where you are today. You couldn't have come to this stage without they being there for you, making all the personal and professional sacrifices. So it's an opportunity for you to thank them, and to thank them for also helping you to start a new chapter in your life. Entering into a new university for the undergraduate students, entering from a school to a college for the BA students. Each of these things are very, let's say, momentous milestones in your life. And I think it is only fair to say that you begin to absorb the implications of this in your own life. I want to quickly give you a brief introduction to the university. This university was created through a philanthropic initiative of our founding chancellor and benefactor, Mr. Jindal. One of the remarkable things about this university is that it was created with a vision to build a world-class university in India. And that was possible because of the philanthropy of Mr. Jindal. My own journey from a student at Delhi University to a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford University, where I did my master's, way back in 1998 when I was a student at Oxford. I conceived the idea of wanting to build a university in India and spend the next decade, as a student at Harvard Law School, as a lawyer in New York, as a faculty member in Japan, and as a professor in Hong Kong. All that journey was essentially to understand the world of universities. In some ways, it was an effort to create something new and extraordinary in India, and we were very fortunate that I got to meet with Mr. Jindal in the year 2006 and spent a year persuading Mr. Jindal to do three things. One, to make a substantial financial commitment to build a not-for-profit university. Second, to do it in a not-for-profit manner. And the third, to let me have the academic freedom and autonomy and independence to build a world-class university in India. By late 2007, Mr. Jindal agreed to all of that. He invited me to move to India from Hong Kong in early 2008, and we began the process of institution building from scratch. Land acquisition, formulation of curriculum, course structure, program development, faculty recruitment plan, student admissions process, hiring of architects, construction engineers, contractors, and pretty much persuading the government of Haryana to pass a legislation to establish O.P. Jindal Global University as the first private university in the state of Haryana happened. To cut the story short, as late as January 2009, when that happened, we began the process of construction of campus, recruitment of faculty, and admission of students. In a span of less than 6 months, we did all of that. And as promised to Mr. Jindal, on 30th September 2009, we began the first academic session of the first school of the university, Jindal Global Law School, with only 100 students and 20 faculty members. We never looked back since then. In 2010, we started the business school. In 2011, the School of International Affairs. In 2012, the School of Government and Public Policy. In 2016, the School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. In 2017, the School of Art and Architecture, the School of Journalism and Communication. In 2018, the School of Art and Architecture. And in 2019, the School of Banking and Finance. And this year in 2020, we have started a new school, the Jindal School of Environment and Sustainability. These 11 years of our journey has been phenomenal, and lot to tell you and lot to share with you. And I'm very delighted that you're going to be part of our next phase of our future. The 5 things that I want to share with you very quickly is part of our founding vision and continue to shape our mission. We are a global university. For us to be a global university means to have a global curriculum, a global course structure, a global program, a global faculty, a global research agenda, all of which promoting global interaction. It means for us to be able to recruit faculty members from around the world and across India. Nearly 15% of our full-time faculty members are non-Indian nationals recruited from 32 different countries and regions in the world. Rest of the faculty members are faculty members who are recruited from across India. Over 50% of our faculty members are graduates of the top 200 universities in the world. And so we have a very strong emphasis on quality of faculty reflected in their ability to teach and to inspire and to engage and to educate and to empower, and of course, to be able to contributing towards research and publications and all of that. The second aspect of our university's vision is our strong commitment to research. We maintain a 1:9 faculty-student ratio that has enabled our faculty members to contribute towards the 55 research centers and the 3 research and capacity building institutes. It has also enabled our students to play an active part in those research centers and the institutes as well. Our faculty members have published very widely. We have in the last 11 years over 3,000 publications, 150 plus books from the leading publishing houses, because of which we have a very strong citation index as well. The third is our strong commitment to public service. We believe in the notions of public service deeply embedded in our commitment to creating access to education for people who can't afford. In the last 11 years, we have spent over 160 crores of our important resource towards providing access. I cannot imagine a university which is only 11 years old has made so much investment when it comes to providing access to education for those who can't afford. And that's something. And that access to education has been provided through differential fee structure for programs depending upon the students who are potentially going to be joining, but also depending upon the career choices that the students are going to have after they graduate from those programs as well. And you can see even within the 9 schools you have, there are differential fee structure when it comes to tuition from law and business on the one hand, and say public policy and international affairs and others on the other hand. The fourth aspect of our university is our strong commitment to creating an intellectually vibrant environment through conferences, lectures, workshops, and seminars. And the fifth is what we do towards executive education. I must say that the 11 years of our journey, the pinnacle of that 11 years has been, quite interestingly, this year. 2019-2020 has been the best year so far. In fact, it's a bit ironical, right? When the whole world of higher education is challenged in unimaginable ways, the world's best universities are shaken up and the foundations of higher education are somewhat shaken up from below and above at many levels. JGU has been able to achieve very significant milestones just this year. We began the academic year in August 2019. Just after that, we were declared as an institution of eminence. As you know, the Honorable Prime Minister of India conceived a very unique public policy initiative with the view to identify 18 leading public and private universities in the country, 10 public, 8 private, and to designate them, recognize them as institutions of eminence, and with a view to ultimately propel them to become world-class universities in the years to come. This was an elaborate process which was initially announced by Mr. Arun Jaitley in his budget in 2016-17 and progressively evolved through a policy initiative in 2017 and a very elaborate international committee process that invited over 150 plus universities which participated in this exercise out of the 1,000 Indian universities. Ultimately, through that process, 8 private universities were selected and we were one among them. In March 2020, just before the COVID-19 crisis was emerging within India, our law school was declared as the #1 law school in India, and worldwide we became number 101 to 150 in the global rankings of QS World University Rankings. Well into the crisis COVID-19, our university was declared as the #1 private university by the QS World University Rankings 2021. And we were also ranked as one of the top 21 in India. Only 21 were breaking into the world rankings. We jumped 100 ranks above from last year. And also our university was one of only 3 private universities and essentially out 18 public universities which broke into the QS World University Rankings 2021. Few weeks later, or just a few weeks before today, the QS World University Rankings released the what is known as the QS World Rankings top 150 under 50 years of age. And there we also broke into that ranking once again for the 2nd year consecutively and have been declared as top 150 universities in the world. There are only 4 Indian universities ranked in that ranking. Only 1 Indian private university is in that ranking. And by the way, whether it is the Institute of Eminence or for that matter, the QS World Rankings, or for that matter, the QS World Rankings under 50 years of age, we are the youngest university out there, which is also non-STEM, non-medicine, and a good neighboring university in Sonipat is also not there in it, and that was on a lighter vein. So the point which I want to say is that this year has been a very special year for JGU, and it's a culmination of the last 11 years of an extraordinary efforts that our faculty members, our students, and indeed our staff have put in. We also want to mention that at the peak of this crisis, when the lockdown began in a way, we quickly moved into online education. And I'm happy to report that in the last, just as we end the last semester, we have delivered 8,500 classrooms, over 400 courses taught by over 500 faculty to the 5,100 students were delivered online, including examinations, assessment, and all of that. It was not an easy effort. Very quickly, we transitioned into online education. And of course, we were also the first Indian university to receive the QSI Gauge online certification to deliver online education known as E-Lead Excellence in e-learning and rather e-learning, online education and academic digitization, E-Lead certification. Now, I want to mention that because of the fact that as we look at the future, there is a lot of uncertainty about what is going to happen. And I will be happy to take some questions on that front as well. But we are prepared as a university to be able to address all kinds of scenarios that might potentially shape the future of higher education. So with those words, I want to end by saying that we have great plans for the university as we look at the future. I also want to share with you that the campus infrastructure is expanding quite dramatically. As of now, last year we have 80 acres and now we have acquired over 200 acres. So the campus will become a 300-acre campus by 2035, which is our 15-year strategic plan. We are looking at a 500-acre campus. All these things are happening as we speak. And that is our commitment towards continuing our efforts to build new schools, new programs, and expand our physical infrastructure and intellectual spaces as well. I want to stop here and invite Professor Sudarshan, Dean of our Public Policy School, a very distinguished Rhodes Scholar, as well as somebody who spent over 22 years at the United Nations Development Program, nearly a decade at Ford Foundation. Before that, did his master's from University of Oxford and spent several years as a research fellow at the University of Cambridge, the founding dean of JSGP, to say a few words, after which we will open up for a Q&A session. So Darshan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor, and welcome to all those who are going to become part of the community, which is the O.P. Jindal Global University, and in particular, join one of its schools, which is the School of Government and Public Policy. So I have to say that this is a rather unique school because it's for the first time in India that a program of studies in public policy was initiated in 2012 when I joined as the dean. And I have some of the faculty who also joined at that time, Professor Rajiv Malhotra, who left the Indian Economic Service and stopped giving advice to the then Finance Minister, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, later President of India, and came to help us start this new school. We have here Professor Shwagato Sarkar, who's got a DPhil from Oxford, who laid the foundations for the commencement of the school in 2012 by joining a little before that and helping us devise a curriculum for the first program of the school, which was the Masters in Public Policy. So I have to tell all of you that public policy as a discipline, as a subject, was not taught in any university in India. You had a subject called public administration, but that was very much limited to how is the administration of a country enabled to implement policies. But it didn't focus very much on how do you conceive and design policies in the first place. And the reason we didn't have it is because we left it to the civil service. It's a British legacy. Some of you may have seen the series Yes, Minister, which gives you a good idea of how civil servants actually make policy and or help their political masters to think that they are in charge when the policies really got to be worked out by the civil service. So we have a system like that. So it's only because the world has changed and because our government has changed. You may have read recently that the government announced that it's going to take some 400 or 500 people at fairly mid-career, senior level in government as lateral entrance into government. This would have been inconceivable some years back, but it shows a certain openness on the part of government that it will look to research institutions, to universities, to think tanks, and so on, to make policy. So we, in a way, anticipated changes. Now, one of the nice things about the School of Government and Public Policy is that we are constantly ahead of the curve. Now, the word curve has become kind of somewhat popular these days, and people are thinking of flattening the coronavirus curve. But we were ahead in the sense that we anticipated that there would be more openness and porosity in the government, that our graduates will have more opportunities to contribute to government, also by joining government. In fact, the training that we give in our school is very good foundations for doing the Indian Administrative Service and the Allied Services examinations. I mean, instead of going to quota and trying to mug up stuff from old-fashioned textbooks, what our civil service needs is critical thinking, which is what we cultivate from the outset in the undergraduate program and the postgraduate program. So we are ahead of the curve in the sense that we anticipated that there would be a need for social science knowledge to be actually applied to concrete problems that are faced by the country, not just within this country, but in other countries as well, because we have a good number of foreign students. I can see Frozan from Afghanistan has joined us, and there are others. We've had students from Mozambique, Liberia, and so on. So that's one. The other sense in which we are ahead of the curve is it's become now fashionable to talk about interdisciplinarity. People are aware that if you specialize narrowly in one subject, if you just are an economist or a sociologist or an anthropologist, your world is somewhat limited, and that it's important to be able to make connections from insights across different disciplines. Earlier, there was a time when universities thought they'll promote interdisciplinarity by teaching students a little bit of the one subject, a little bit of the another subject, and the third, and then leave it to their devices to try and make the connections. But this school, from the very outset, because it started with a master's program in public policy, and public policy requires that you integrate insights from multiple disciplines, it is kind of the interdisciplinarity is in its DNA. So even when you join the MA economics program, as many of you would do, you will find that it's not just economics. The discipline of economics itself is undergoing a change. One of the new areas for which was recognized with a Nobel Prize is behavioral economics, which actually integrates psychology into economics, not as an add-on, but somehow integrate the insights in such a way that both the theoretical and the practical propositions that you derive from the theory are informed by other disciplines. So we started with MA Public Policy, then we decided to start a BA Honors in Economics. And I have to say something, again, we were ahead of the curve in starting that program, because normally in a BA program, you start with the traditional subjects that are taught out of a textbook, macroeconomics, microeconomics, and so on. But we decided we'll put our students, as it were, in the deep end, and started with game theory in the very first semester. Now, game theory, as some of you know, many of you may have seen a beautiful film called The Beautiful Mind on John Nash, who is in a way the founder of that field called game theory, which has massive multiple applications in all fields, whether it has to do with international relations, whether it has to do with climate change, it has to do with resolution of conflicts. In all of these fields, game theory and its insights are important. And we begin our BA first semester economics program with a foundation in game theory. Now, we also make it clear to all the students that economics uses maths as just a language. Maths is a language for economics. It's not that if you don't know maths, you cannot do economics. You can get on top of the subject without maths, but maths makes it easy to express yourself. Instead of writing 3 long pages, you can, in half a paragraph with a few equations, say the same thing. So it's simply a language. And so I want to assure students who are anxious about their maths, firstly, that we will give you the maths that you need, the foundations in maths that you need in order to be literate in economics. You know, nowadays, many economists write using maths as a language. And so if you know maths, you can understand what it is they've written. And that's why it becomes important. There used to be a period of time when some considerate scholars like Amartya Sen, our very own Nobel laureate in economics, when he published his book, he had a chapter written in prose in very elegant English. And then he had an appendix to that chapter, which was about 1/10 of the length of that chapter, which was mathematical equations that stated what the chapter had described. But now economists are not patient like Amartya Sen and write in both languages, in prose and in equations. Many of them just go ahead and say what they wish to say in equations, and therefore you need to know that language to be able to understand it. So I want to assure all those who have any anxieties, because, you know, numbers, you know, people have a block about languages, right? I mean, you know, some people easily pick them up, you know, can speak 6 or 7 languages. Some people find, you know, even though they've lived, you know, many of us are living here in the campus in Haryana, but you can't say that we just readily pick up Haryanvi, which is the dialect we hear all around us. But, you know, but if you were conscious that it's necessary to do it, we'll help you get that grasp on that language. And then we are ahead of the curve again. And this is my last ahead of the curve point, which is this year we are starting another program, which we are calling a BA Social Science and Policy. Now, firstly, I want you to note that we are not calling it social sciences. Then the immediate question would be, oh, what social sciences are going to deal with in the program? Now, social science as a broad field is about understanding human beings and their society and the environment in which human beings live and work and think. Natural sciences study natural bodies. They study the planets, as in astronomy. They study plants, as in botany. They study animals, as in zoology. They study particles, as in physics. Some may be visible, some are invisible. They study elements that in chemistry. All of that is natural sciences, which look at the natural world, and social sciences broadly look about human beings. So if you want to know about people and how people interact with society, never mind whether you're calling yourself an economist or a sociologist, an anthropologist. What you're concerned with is with people. So with this understanding, we decided that social science as an entire group matters. The insights from number of disciplines that have evolved and are specialized, true, but there is enough in them that people need to learn in order to have practical applications. So I'll end by saying that the entire philosophy of the General School of Government and Public Policy is the practical application of knowledge. I must also say that I have a lot of respect and regard for those who seek and advance knowledge for its own sake, without being able to say, how is it going to be useful? Because the nice thing about knowledge is you don't know in advance when it's going to be useful. A number of insights in, say, quantum physics and quantum mechanics are now beginning to be useful in fields like complexity economics. And we have Dr. Naresh Singh, who's one of the pioneer thinkers in complexity economics with us. He's been a visiting fellow in the General School of Government and Public Policy. So he could elaborate a little bit about how even from the natural sciences, we have insights that inform the social sciences. And our fundamental thrust is practical application of knowledge. What that means is that you are being trained in the time you're in our school to find jobs where your knowledge, your skills will have applications and uses. And you see, you don't know the traditional jobs are going to disappear. When I was studying, my parents thought that a sure way for me to be able to stand on my own feet, so to speak, is to learn stenography, shorthand and typewriting. Because for them, this was something where every office needed a stenographer. But that as a job has simply disappeared. So I'm grateful that I'm fast on the keyboard, but I have no use for shorthand. And that job just doesn't exist. So many jobs that now exist will disappear. So what is important and what we stress in the education in any of the programs, MA Public Policy, MA Economics, BA Economics Honors, and BA Honors Social Science and Policy, is critical thinking, is the ability to learn, how to learn, and learning is a lifelong business, and to have a solid foundation in ethics, to cultivate some virtues. In the old days, if you read philosophy, Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, and you'd find a lot of emphasis on virtues, courage, honesty, truthfulness, sincerity, empathy, care, compassion. These are values that are very important, and they don't come into a discipline, as a sort of a little section of economics or a little section of sociology. It is something that the entire university experience will give you, not simply in any one school, but because we are a very interdisciplinary institution and we have a lot of interaction, for instance, with lawyers who are concerned about justice and the practical manifestations of justice. These virtues will be inculcated in you. And this is, at the end of it, you'll forget many things that you learn. I mean, you learn because you are learning how to learn, and you get on top of a discipline, and what you may learn if you're doing economics, what the Stolper-Samuelson theorem is, or the Heckscher-Ohlin model in international trade. But if you down the line, you would be hard put to kind of remember the details. But what will remain with you is, as education, is the kind of person you become. And the kind of person we want you to become is someone who has cultivated virtues, who has the capacity to make practical judgments, and who can do critical thinking. So I'll stop there. And I've just given you an introduction to some of our faculty. We also have some of our students with us. We have two members of the Students' Council who will be graduating. We have Meghna Nair here. Then we have another student, Suhash Ramani is the president of the council. We have Shivali Anchan, and we have Meghna Nair. So we are all here able and willing to answer your questions. And so as the Vice Chancellor proposed, rather than, I've taken time to explain the programs a little bit. Originally, we thought we'll have some of our faculty who worked on their curriculum to explain that to you, but we will keep that for a little later. And because the Vice Chancellor will be here with us for a little longer, we'll open up the floor for questions, and then we'll come back to details. And I want some of our students to communicate to you what their experience has been like. And we have not tutored them to say this or that. I invite them to speak, as I emphasized, with honesty, candor, and truthfulness. So,
thank you, Dean Sudarshan. Now you have the option of raise your hand. So if you have a question, please raise your hands, and one by one we will take your questions. So first, I think Anushka has raised her hand. So Anushka, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
And parents as well.
Yeah. Anushka.
I think she has to be unmuted by you, Mani.
Yeah, Anush.
Maybe next person can ask. We're not able to hear anything. So,
Bishme Kumar.
Bishme, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Namaste, sir. My name is Bishmay Kumar and I'm from Vijayawada, Andhra Pradesh. So I was having a doubt regarding the initiation of the classes. So like as the ongoing pandemic is going on,
Yeah.
like when can we expect the classes to start in Jindal Global University, or what will be the mode of teaching to the students?
So thank you very much, Bishmay, for your question. I'm sure that's a question that is, paramount now for all of you. You see, normally our academic session will begin on the 1st of August this year, 3rd of August as well. And we are taking every endeavor to do that. But what I want to say is that there are lots of factors that are shaping our thought process. Okay. So the short answer is, in the next few weeks, you will have a determinative answer to your question. The slightly longer answer is as follows. The university is fully prepared to be able to deliver physical in-class experience as at our proposed date. However, we are conscious of three major factors that are influencing our decision. First of all, factors that are connected to the regulatory bodies, including the University Grants Commission, the Ministry of Human Resource Development, as well as the Government of Haryana. Both government and regulatory bodies have a very important role to play, and their thinking, their guidelines, their processes. Second is the overall situation with regard to COVID-19 and the safety and well-being of the students who will be on campus in our hostels and all of that. The third is the state of mobility of students from different parts of India and some of them beyond as well. These three factors will be continuously examined and will ultimately shape our decision. The other point I want to share with you is that nearly a month ago, the UGC had proposed a plan, and we don't know how much they are wedded to that plan, but that was just a month and a half ago. They didn't make any judgment about online or physical. They said that the new students will be able to come into campus, or rather the academic year for new students can begin on 1st of September, and the academic year for the existing students can begin on 1st of August. This is the UGC's recommendation and guideline. We are, as we speak, examining all these matters, including the three things that I told you. And our hope is to be able to get back to you with a definitive answer, maybe before 10th of July. I hope, Bishmay, that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Great. Wonderful.
Next we have Yashvardhan. Yashvardhan, unmute yourself.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I just completed my application yesterday, and
Yashvardhan, we can't see you. Okay, now we can.
yes, can you see me now?
Yes.
So I just completed my application day before yesterday, and I was I wanted to ask some questions on the points Professor Sudarshan mentioned in his dialogue, that traditional jobs are disappearing. Like we saw the trading jobs from the New York Stock Exchange disappearing, and now also the lateral entry program is being protested by a lot of bureaucracy as well. So, sir, what are the actions JGU is taking for their students in light of the in light of this, and what will be the future prospects of the graduates from the BA economics programs? Because now every bank and every institution is looking for MBAs, because in India you can do an MBA with no work ex. So that has kind of cannibalized the market. So what is JGU doing for its students so that they can pursue a job after the 3 years of BA economics? Thank you.
Vice Chancellor, will you answer that or shall I do that?
I'll quickly make you give a more detailed response on the specifics of it. Yashwardhan, let me say one thing. I've always long believed that undergraduate programs of any kind, including the one I did a BCom degree many years ago at Royal College Madras, and the so many, nearly 20 plus undergrad degrees that we offer, they all are expected to provide a pathway into a master's degree program. I mean, I have always maintained that UG program should not have expectation for a job opportunity, although some of you can take it. So what does JGU do? Well, we make 5 commitments and we stick to it. First of all, our goal is to provide you with a fantastic education. And that's a very important part of it. That's our commitment. We provide you with fantastic education that will enable you and empower you to be able to do the things that you decide to do in the future. Second, we recruit the most outstanding faculty who can not only teach you, but also mentor you for you to pursue different career opportunities. Third, we have created an intellectually vibrant environment that your experiences go beyond the classroom experiences, and you end up meeting amazing people who come regularly from outside when it comes to delivering guest lectures, conferences, workshops, seminars, and other things that we do. Fourth, we have established what is known as the Office of Career Services, and also our faculty members who are mentoring and providing career support for our students. Career support doesn't mean they are providing guarantees for jobs, or for that matter, getting jobs for our students. They don't. What they do is they are able to connect our students to potential employment opportunities, potential internship opportunities. And that's a very important part of the journey. The next thing that we do is we are very conscious of creating an international experience for our students, and so that our students are able to pursue even future higher studies, not just in India, but around the world. These 5 things that I told to you are part of our institutional commitment, so that you are able to achieve your fullest potential as a student of JGU. As far as the point about what you mentioned about these jobs coming, listen, COVID-19 or even before, there will be all kinds of scenarios and impact which will impact the job market. Not just the ones you mentioned, but there are many factors job market will be impacted. But if I were you, I will be thinking in terms of looking at the widest possible opportunities out there. All our lives have been shaped by we not taking the more predictable, outcomes out there. And so one of the things that we do, and we do that, and Sudarshan emphasizes that, the possibility to develop a more interdisciplinary education while being at JGU. When you come into campus, and I hope you will come sooner than later, you have the opportunity to interact with people from so many disciplines, and which a typical BA economics type program in many institutions do not afford or offer. And as a young student, even from your second year onwards, you can actually cross-register courses and electives from other schools, so that you develop a holistic knowledge and understanding of your own discipline. I have nothing more to add, Yashwardhan. Dean, you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to emphasize that the content of what you learn, which is encourages and critical thinking, is the kind of ability which any new jobs that may come up in the world will need. So no matter how much robots take over or how much artificial intelligence takes over, there will always be a need for people, but not just any people, because these are substituting people who do routine mechanized things, but people who can think. And, you know, so learning to think is something that's important. And, you know, this is something like osmosis. It just happens. And I can, in my 8 years in the university, I can assure you it has happened to all the students who are here, who are going to graduate, whether they realize it or not. That ability comes naturally, given the kind of training and learning that happens in this university. So you'd be able to, you know, you develop, I mean, I call that quality the ability to make practical judgments. Now, you know, if you, no matter what kind of data, analytics, artificial intelligence, whatever takes over the world, there would still be a need for people who are able to make decisions, aware of the ethical implications of what will happen as a result of those decisions, and to be able to find solutions to contexts. So I'd say that, you know, it's better to do that than to fix on some kind of a job. Okay, there's accountancy, and therefore I'll train myself to be an accountant. There's civil engineering, I'll train myself to be a civil engineer. You are really training yourself by drawing on a very rich experience of all of the social sciences. They're all very mature. All of them have insights, but to be able to make connections. And one of the experiences that the university is that we encourage students to take elective courses from other schools. You know, go do something in law or business in the afternoon. We make sure, you know, one of the things that the Vice Chancellor didn't emphasize is that the architecture of the school, you know, you don't have different departments and different buildings for each department. It's all in one academic block. But that is meant to communicate that, you know, there is no silo, there's no divisions. And we also encourage that all elective courses are taught after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so that they don't clash with the core courses that people need to do in different programs. Now, you take a university like Harvard, where the Vice Chancellor studied. Harvard in principle says you have the ability to go to any school and take any course, but it takes about 45 minutes to walk from Harvard Law School to the Harvard Business School. Harvard Business School and the Harvard Law School, when they prepare their class timetables and teaching programs, don't consult one another. So you'd either have a timing clash or you have a distance. You have all kinds of obstacles, practical obstacles for that kind of learning. And we are very
I have a question.
eliminate those obstacles. So I'd say that. So it stand in good stead because, you know, you don't, right now we can't predict post-COVID, what are the big new opportunities and jobs, what are the jobs that are going to disappear. But what COVID-19 has underlined, and I'll underline that again, is that we need insights from multiple disciplines to be able to tackle a problem like this. Policymakers should have known some sociology, anthropology, and psychology to understand that if you're going to shut down and there's a fear of a big disease like COVID-19, human beings will want to be with their families, right? Now, if you overlook that insight and you simply think in terms of what are the epidemiologists saying, and you went only by that, you will have problems. So I'd say that, you know, we can avoid such problems in the future by recognizing at the outset why it's important to draw insights from multiple disciplines.
All right, let's take more questions.
So next we have Devang. Devang, unmute yourself and put on your video.
Hello, good afternoon to all the faculty and professors. I just wanted to point out that, as Professor Sudarshan said, that psychology was not part of any courses in India, but it was two psychologists in 1979 that developed prospect theory. So it was high time that universities considered behavioral economics as a part of their curriculum. So I would really like to thank OP General School that they have considered behavioral economics as a part of their curriculum. But now to my question, as an economic student, I am really interested in financial economics and the global trade. So would I be a proper fit at uh, OP General?
Sudarshan, you should answer that question.
I'll invite Rajiv Malhotra to answer that. Professor in public finance.
Thank you for that question. Actually, the first thing one needs to, as a student of economics, is to get the fundamentals and the core content of the discipline worked out. And that's what we try to do in our BA program. Of course, we have options, and as we go forward, we will have more and more elective options where you could specialize in finance. And I presume your interest in finance is not so much on public side, but it is more on international finance or investment finance. But as I said, in order to do all that well in your life, you must get your core concepts in economics right. So this is the first degree you're going to do in economics. And the focus here would be to build up those concepts, those fundamentals, which then allow you to specialize. And it is quite conceivable that over the next 2-3 years that you spend in this program, you get exposed to so much of information and knowledge. And people, as the Vice Chancellor mentioned a little while ago, that one of the unique things about our university is the amount of events and personalities, the thought leaders of different disciplines coming and sharing their views. So it's quite conceivable that 2 or 3 years down the line, you are looking at something else as a specialization. So at this juncture, you need to worry more about getting the fundamentals right, the core content of the subject in place, and then choose the specialization you want. And having said that, you would have an option to take up an elective in the area of finance, whether it is in our school or in the business school. I'll leave it at that.
Right, thank you. Satyendra, you want to say something about this student's interest, finance?
We'll get more questions, Dino. We'll get more questions.
All right.
Okay, next
You can add a little more later.
Yeah,
All right.
that's fine. It's okay.
Shivani, please unmute yourself.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Shivani.
All right. First of all, hi sir, hi ma'am. I'm Savani and I'm from Hyderabad. I apologize for the disturbance. The weather is really, really wet right now. So firstly,
You
I
have a
really...
fascinating background behind you.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. I painted it myself. Quarantine. It's getting boring. Anyway, so firstly, I really appreciate the fact that you can choose interdisciplinary electives because international finance is also something that I was looking at. So my question was, considering the revised evaluation patterns for like CBSE and other boards as well, how is the college going to go about with scholarships and like other confirmation of admission as such?
Okay. Well, first of all, I think, our admissions office staff will tell you more details, but basically the fact that CBSE results have not been released does not make any change in our admissions schedule as well. On the final transcript side, we have already given offer of admission to students with the framework of a conditional offer in which by the time the transcripts are ready, you can share with the institution whenever that is, so long as you fulfill that. But as far as the scholarship is concerned, we look into all the factors, including your past performance. If the 12th standards final transcript is not ready, we can evaluate your previous results, including your 10th standard results, including your entrance examination results and other things. So none of that should delay anything. So I'm going to request Ankur and the team here to ensure that whatever decision making that we need to take is done sufficiently in advance so that you are in a position to make your call. I mean, one of the things which we are trying to balance multiple things here. We don't want to, there are institutions which are deciding to open in October and November, for example. There are institutions which are talking about, all their entrance examinations have been postponed almost indefinitely. But we are very, because we had planned this well in advance, and I think we are very fortunate that way. We are on an uninterrupted schedule in terms of what we want to do. Both the JSAT examination and other examination on the basis of which our students qualify, we moved it into artificial intelligence enabled and remote proctored examination. We've been very actively working with our admissions office and our faculty. So nothing should prevent and should not delay whatever decision making that we need to do. I don't want to talk about the details, and I'll request Ankur Vora and the admissions office to separately talk to you about the details.
Just one more question from me, sir. I'm sorry for asking so many.
Please.
Could you please tell me a little bit more about the research opportunities with the BA Honors Economics program?
Excellent. Well, Dean, you want to add
Yes.
that?
Well, I could. Firstly, all our faculty are engaged in research, and they're very glad and happy to involve bright students, enthusiastic students in their research work. I'll ask any one of the students who are here who are going to graduate to tell you a little bit about participation in the work, whether it's in an institution where our faculty are involved in a collaborative research. Now, connected to scholarship, which is financial assistance, any student who does some teaching assistance or does some research assistance, and it could be undergraduate students as much as postgraduate students, are eligible to a stipend ranging from 5,000 rupees a month to 10,000 rupees a month, depending on the quantity of work and the quality of the work that they do and the recommendation of the faculty who got them into doing the work. So from the very beginning, we'd encourage students to do that, to begin to learn research methods, to cultivate the discipline that it takes to doing research, as opposed to learning courses and doing assignments and so on. But this is something that our university would emphasize. And the more students show an interest in wanting to contribute to the research work of faculty, and not necessarily in the same school. We are a very large faculty across the university, given that our faculty student ratio is 1:10. There are more than 550 faculty. So it's easier for students to find some connection. So it depends. It depends also a lot on the student, because we can't say that every student can be sort of as a sort of assembly line taken into doing research. Some students have the aptitude for it and some students don't, but that's all right.
Great.
Next, we have Vishali. Vishali,
Please.
unmute yourself and start your video too. Vishali?
Hello.
Yes, Vaishali.
Yeah, I'm Vaishali. I'm from Bangalore. So when I was applying for my economics for different colleges, I saw that there were many colleges offering a BSc economics and some colleges offering a BA economics. And I just want to know if there was really a difference between the two, and if there was an advantage or disadvantage by picking one over the other.
Thank you, Vaishali. Sudarshan will answer that question. Yes, our Dean will do.
There is no difference between what might be called a BSc in economics and a BA in economics. Delhi University calls it a BA. Kolkata University has BSc in economics. Some other universities have it. Economics is economics. And so whether you call it a science or an art is neither here nor there. It sort of sounds a little more impressive maybe to some people that it's called a science, but strictly speaking, economics is not a science. It's a social field. It has to do with people, and anything to do with people is not amenable to the methods of the natural sciences, because people always react to whatever theories you make about their behavior. Plants and planets don't react to theories that you make about them. So that's a big difference. And that's one of the reasons why it doesn't matter whether you call it science or art. What you need to understand is that the way we teach economics, we teach you to appreciate what is absolutely valuable about the subject and what are its limitations, what it cannot do, right? Knowing that is just as important. And that's often not emphasized in many programs, but we say use the social sciences properly and use them well. Don't use them in contexts that are not applicable, and then to say, oh, the economists didn't get it right, their predictions were wrong. All that are over expectations. So it doesn't matter whether it's science or art.
Next,
Thank you, Vaishali.
we can take the question from Simran Agnihotri.
Please, Simran.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening to you.
I'm Agnihotri, and I'm aspiring to do a master's in economics course. I wanted to know basically the advantages and disadvantages of the course offered by Jindal, given that this is the first year that the course is starting. I also wanted to know the difference between the course that is offered by your university and which is being offered by universities all across India and abroad as well. Because like there are a lot of other universities which are well reputed and have developed their course over a period of years. I wanted to know the advantages of joining the course in your university.
Simran, if I may ask you, where did you do your undergrad?
Sir, I did it from Delhi University from Jesus and Mary College.
Excellent, great. Well,
All
I'm
right.
going to ask Sudarshan to answer, but I'll tell you one thing, which before he answers, I mean, I'm not an economist, but I will say one thing. It's whenever you make a choice about an institution, it is equally important for you to consider not just the particular course that you're going to study, but the larger ecosystem and the academic environment that the university fosters. So as you think in terms, I mean, Sudarshan is going to talk about the MA Economics and why JSGP MA Economics is something that's worthy of doing. But more importantly, it's important for you to recognize that given the fact that there is an ecosystem with other schools and other programs, and as a master's student, when you are able to interact with students in the public policies program, where we have MA program, in the international affairs school, where we have an MA in diplomacy program, in the business school, where we have an MBA program, in the law school, where we have a 3-year LLB program with students, let's say graduates from Jesus and Mary College itself, that opportunity to interact and engage and be part of a peer learning environment is equally important. The second thing is also, which I am a very strong believer in it, and I've always said this, that I graduated from Delhi University and I was in law faculty at the Campus Law Center. And I have always lamented about the fact that students in Delhi University in graduate schools never had the opportunity within this nearby ecosystem to take courses from the other discipline. So for example, from the law faculty, the Delhi School of Economics is only 3 minutes walk. and from the Delhi School of Economics, the Faculty of Management Sciences is 4 to 5 minutes walk. But you simply have no opportunity whatsoever institutionally provided for a student or a faculty to cross-register or cross-list courses across. When we started the business school in 2010, and since then every new school that we started, we have taken the interdisciplinarity element to another level, whereby our students across different schools can actually take courses in the other school. And the other remarkable thing, unlike any university anywhere in the world, our tuition fee is not based on credits. So for example, if I were to do an additional credit in LSE, LSE will charge me for that. Every credit has a pound value, a dollar value, not a jindal. You pay for your tuition fee, and depending upon your time and convenience and schedule, you can cross-register courses across all the schools. On top of it, if you have the time and schedule, you can do foreign languages as well. So this has also become a very democratizing and inclusive, enabling environment for students to be able to, take these opportunities within the university. But I'm going to request Dean Sudarshan to talk about.
Well, yeah, I mean, I studied in the Delhi School of Economics and had great teachers. But this discipline has changed. And what I'd say is that our faculty are, one advantage is that many of them, unlike me, are young, which means that they are au fait with new trends and advances in the subject. But I'd like Rajiv to, who in one of these conversations emphasized that, there are gaps in the program or at the master's level in many universities that we are conscious of and that we are filling in our program. So maybe he can illustrate one or two of those things to more completely answer the question, in addition to the overall advantages of the university that the Vice Chancellor mentioned.
Simran, let me start by suggesting that it is not a disadvantage to be the first batch of a new program in a university. In fact, I think it is an advantage because the faculty is going to be constantly on their toes to make sure that the program succeeds. So you would have an added advantage of a very active, proactive faculty as a part of the first batch of the MA program. Coming to the substantive part of your question, as Dean Sudarshan mentioned, there are gaps. See, one of the big gaps in the way postgraduate economics education, or for that matter, even BA honors economics education in India is the inertia with which it is straddled. The curriculums go on in the same mold for years after years after years. And that's true about Delhi University as well. Like Sudarshan, I'm also a product of the Delhi School. And so I know what has been the kind of process involved in revising and updating the curriculum. Having said that, being a private university, we have a lot of flexibility, and with all the institutional setup that we have in our place and the acknowledgement that we have got from regulatory bodies, from the Ministry of Education, Higher Education, and the fact that we are now an institute of eminence gives us a fair amount of, let's say, degrees of freedom to play around with the curriculum, keeping in mind what is globally relevant, what is disciplinary relevant, and what are the state-of-art changes happening in the subject. Finally, let me also say that there will be a core part of your MA program which would be quite similar to, let's say, what is being dealt in Delhi School or in ISI, or for that matter, the MSc program in London School of Economics. But then once you have done that core module, then the kind of electives and the options that you would have would be far more diverse and flexibly delivered in our institution that I don't think you will have a possibility anywhere in India. Of course, there will be a few institutions outside India where you could actually have that kind of option and opportunity. But I'm quite sure while we were designing the MA curriculum, we kept in mind the constraints under which most of the so-called eminent institutions in India have been operating and the structure they have put in place for their program. So let me just stop here so that we can take a few more questions, but you are welcome to write to us through the admission office or to us directly, and we could answer your questions and queries in more detail.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajiv.
In case Simran, as you will also appreciate, it will be not appropriate for us to give you why you shouldn't join other institutions. We can tell why you should consider joining Jindal.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Next, we have Amit Prasher. Sir, please unmute your...
Yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Please switch on your video also.
All right. Is it mandatory?
Yeah, if you can.
One sec. I don't know. Okay. Fair enough. Hi, good afternoon, VC sir and Sudarshan. Thank you very much for all of you being there. I'm one of the parents. My son has been already offered at Jindal, and we have already deposited the initial fee for blocking the seat. This is about a month and a half back. Now, my question is basically, pertaining to his interest area, which is more towards the financial part of the economics, a question of which has already been taken by Professor Malhotra. He's more he's a bent towards investment banking and global trade, currency trading are the areas which really excites him, and he wishes to make further career advancement after the undergrad studies in that direction. The program at Jindal seems to me a more something which is oriented towards government policy and administrative and economic services, so to say, if someone is aspiring to get into that field. So is it a wrong observation, A? And secondly, in case you have students coming from that aspiration and you have corporates coming for internship opportunities and final placements to the campus, if you could just highlight on that, because we are comparing with a couple of other options that he has got in hand. With all due respect, we are very keen for Jindal. I have got some fellow students from his school who have given very positive feedback, but I want to take an informed decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amit ji. Sudarshan, you want to?
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
I'll make one general point that, I mean, as a high school student, it's also important for anybody when he or she is looking at their undergrad education to have a more holistic grounding in a range of disciplinary areas. Because one of the things that we are very conscious as a university is that it's not a sort of we believe in the idea of broad-based holistic education, which will ultimately empower a student to pursue a range of higher study opportunities and careers in the future. From the sound of what you're saying is that there are, your son seems to be much more interested in certain types of areas within economics and maybe even financial studies. So maybe Sudarshan, you might want, one option is to talk a bit about what the banking and finance school and the business school does, and how in addition to the BA courses in economics that he will take in JSGP, he should be guided towards taking courses in the business school and the School of Banking and Finance. That option.
He's a bit capitalist in his thinking, that's what sometimes worries me, and sometimes, I feel more happy about it.
No, I think that's a big statement you're making, but beyond any particular ideological notions towards it, those are very interesting and important career opportunities, and there's nothing wrong in having that aspiration. I think we should help students to make different types of career choices in different areas. At least our university prides in the fact that the notions of public good should not be limited to an aspiration to work only within the government. There are numerous ways by which you can contribute to public good and changing the world and helping the world and becoming a better place. And there is nothing wrong in aspiring to working in a financial company or an investment bank or a consulting job. So that's.
Well, thank you. I mean, Raju pretty much provided the answer, because, you know, at the foundational level, we want students to be very firmly grounded in the basic insights in the discipline. And we've been innovative in that. As I said, we teach game theory in over 2 years. But finance is something that comes in this level of an elective specialization, which is possible. Not within our school. I'll ask Satyendra to say a word or two about that. But our School of Banking and Finance has a number of courses which are cross-listed, which students enrolled in the BA program can take. And that's a very, very cutting edge program. I mean, the degree they offer is BCom, but it's nothing like the conventional BCom. It's nothing like the BCom that my Vice Chancellor did at Dialogue College in Madras. This is really, top class. And the faculty in that School of Business, Banking and Finance are top notch. So that comes at the stage of electives. So right now, I mean, all you need to know is that our university has the capacity to enable a student, whether it's in finance or in international trade, or even in theoretical economics. Let's not forget, we would like some of our students to be advancing the frontiers of the discipline. And so our training is meant to do that as well, not simply to say, learn something and apply it. So we have to cater to different kinds of proclivities and aptitudes and interests that young students would have. All I could say is that those options exist. But I'd like Satyendra to just say a word about, since he came from a management school, to join us a little bit about what your son might be interested.
Ankur, just a minute. Ankur, you should send a copy of the Jindal School of Banking and Finance brochure to Amit, so that they get a sense of the courses offered in that school, but also the electives and the faculty expertise that we have.
And also some of the institutions that I'm comparing, I saw that they have set up a, exchange for the capital markets to get a first-hand feel of, how to do the investment, build your portfolio, and how the currency trades.
So
does that something like that?
The more you say what you're saying, it's important for you to look at the program that I'm requesting Ankur to send it across.
Okay.
But I want to quickly say before Satyendra says anything is that, Amit, you also want to remember that there is a lot of transition happening as we speak.
I agree, yeah.
So whatever all of us think that is going to be the in thing, might just not be in 3, 4, 5 years. So this is why notions of foundational disciplinary knowledge rooted in foundations of theory is actually going to be helpful for the future. Because regardless of those changes, dramatic changes that are going to reimagine the future of investment banking, or for that matter, impacting the impact of artificial intelligence and robotics and machine learning on the world of finance, nobody can predict those changes today. And that is precisely why, and those type of things can actually be learned quickly through short courses. But what you cannot learn is what a university degree, which teaches foundational disciplines through theories by experts who have spent good part of their life thinking and working and writing about it. So it's a natural temptation, Amit, for people to be guided by more, let's say, contemporary factors, that this is good and this is popular. But let me assure you that having worked around the world and even at a corporate law firm in New York, this is for the long haul. And those people who are adaptable to a future with a strong foundational knowledge are actually much more sought after even when those changes happen.
I agree.
All right, Satyendra, please add.
A quick word on finance.
Well, I would like to add just a couple of things. That I did my first degree, undergrad degree from IIT Kanpur. And when I did, long time back, around 20 years back, almost everybody could have joined a software company without having a degree in software. And some of my batchmates are running one of the largest companies in this country, whether it's Flipkart or InMobi or any other company. And they never had a degree in computer science or software engineering. Then the second thing comes about the finance. And it's very fascinating because we see the numbers, people are earning in millions. But the point is, nobody prepares for finance degree other than few courses, but nobody can prepare you that, okay, I will teach you these particular courses and you go into a finance degree. Again, many of my batchmates in over 20 years are running large investment banks. They're also running sovereign funds in Middle East of hundreds of $1 billion. They never had a degree in finance. And some of them have done only BTech degree in some, let's say, metallurgical engineering. So what is required is fundamentals. If your fundamentals are strong, you know how you can apply concept. It doesn't matter what you have learned as an undergraduate degree. And I think that's what I think I should stop, that fundamentals are more necessary than a particular skill.
I completely agree, and I'm in sync with all of you that the fundamental at the foundation level is very important. My question, the second part of the question was more pertaining to the fact that for internship, what kind of companies, what kind of corporates are really coming in, while my son can, learn under your able, guidance and support for the basics and foundation. But if he wishes to do a internship or a real work, some project with a investment bank, so do you have those organizations coming in, or it is more to do with, say, some thought leadership, think tanks, NGOs, some Amnesty Internationals of this world, which are coming in and picking up students for some projects?
I think we've got Hemlata Sharma with us. I've also got Professor Melinda Chakravarthy, who works on placements and internships. So I'll ask them. Of course, we are in conversation with many of the leading companies, Ernst & Young, KPMG, but Hema can give you a little bit. But I think any of the students, if they wish to, are graduating students, if any of them are in this line.
We have Shreya Singh, a member of CCOM, Student Initiative. So she will, I think, the appropriate to answer this question.
You listen to, someone who's graduating and who has knows what we've been doing. So who's to start?
Shreya, please.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shreya Singh, and I'm a final year master's student of public policy. And I'm also a member of the career committee at the Jindal School of Governance and Public Policy. It's a student-led initiative. So what I would specifically talk about how this initiative works. The Careers Committee is an institutionalized body, and it is under the guidance of Professor Melinda Chakravarthy, as well as the Dean. And what we do here is that we become facilitators of internship experiences, as well as career opportunities that are provided. We also have an organized list of organizations in which we have alumni who have worked and who also tell us about their work experiences. And we shortlist the entire experience, and we try to integrate as much as course learnings, the suitable course learnings for the students, and match that with the requirements of the company. So as facilitators, we have a list. We are organizing internships with CPRG. We have CPR, Center for Policy Research. We have Ernst & Young, as Professor Dean Sudarshan was telling us. And we have additional experiences with MNCs as well. So students are under constant guidance of most of our faculty members who personally mentor, as well as have a broader network in the organizations that they have previously worked in. So there's a constant support given to students who are exploring different, not necessarily to do with just economics. We also cater to social service. We look into NGOs which are working closely on the ground in terms of rural development and cooperation, finance, of course, and obviously our professors would obviously talk a little bit more about those specializations. So I'll hand over that to them.
Amit, I want as a parent, I want to also share with you. Maybe it's important to have a conversation, which I can definitely ask Ankur Vora of our admissions to have with you and your son.
Yeah, maybe offline,
Offline, where you might want to consider a couple of other programs, because frankly speaking, if the goal is so much focused on investment banking, then, I mean, honestly speaking, I mean, when I used to live in New York, investment bankers whom I met, they have had very strong, solid, PhDs as well. So at some level, BA economics will actually be helpful. But I think it's also important for you to know that different schools have different philosophy. JSGP is not like a business school. There is something different about a business school and a banking and finance school. So given the fact that we have such options within the campus, it might be a better idea to have a conversation so that you can have an informed understanding of what else is out there.
All right. Thanks.
Done, sir. I'll follow up.
Great. Next question.
So next we have Santil Sundaram. Santil, are you there?
There is a question from Jyoti Raina as well.
Yeah.
Yes, my name is Jyoti Raina and my son has applied in the Jindal school. He's interested in pursuing economics as a major in his undergraduate education. My question is about the undergraduate economics curriculum. He, in his economics in class 11 and 12th, there was a slight disjunction because class 11 CBSE school economics is largely focused on macroeconomics. Whereas when you come to class 12, the focus shifts completely, partly to developmental economics and partly to microeconomics. In developmental economics, again, the focus is on an old school kind of economics, where there is a lot of information about the various 5-year plans and the post-independence economic models of development that were followed. So there is slight value judgmentness about the way they do economics, about the normativeness of economics. And very oddly, I found it very odd that the students of class 12 economics do not study even one paragraph about Niti Aayog or the current perspective to economic planning. So when Professor Rajkumar was speaking about understanding economics as a discipline, understanding the disciplinary basis of knowledge and gaining a basic foothold, I thought in the context of economics, it's important to make that kind of a value judgment about what kind of economics is there in your undergraduate curriculum. Is it the contemporary economics that enables you to gain an intelligent understanding of the world of economics as it is there? Or is it just economics as a history of economics, which seems to be the focus in class 11th and 12th school economics? Why I ask this question is also because when the students are expected to do a project in economics, he did a project on the relationship between poverty and employment. So he dealt largely in macroeconomics, which he was not doing in class 12, and developmental economics, which again is something which you don't find in the real world of economics. So I would just request you to shed a little light on your undergraduate economics curriculum and how it enables them to understand economics as it is practiced in the contemporary world by today's economists. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Raina. I'll ask my colleague Vatsalya to answer that question. I think Vatsalya is with us to answer that question, because Vatsalya has been looking at what students have done before they come into the BA Honors Economics program, the kinds of economics that you're talking about, the emphasis and so on. Vatsalya, will you take over?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. So I think it's useful to start off with one piece of advice that I got when I was starting off with my bachelor's. I hadn't taken economics in school, and we had all joined with a lot of trepidation. And the very first day, my microeconomics teacher asked who among us had studied economics in school, and there's a bunch of students who raised their hands. And she told all of us that if you have studied any economics in school, forget it. Because a lot of economics in school back then used to be very trivia based, of the type that you have mentioned, that it's mostly about providing information. What you're trying to do when you're trying to teach somebody any subject, not just economics at the university level, is that you're trying to inculcate a process of thinking. So economics as a way of understanding the world, rather than economics simply as a collection of facts, figures, or theories. And in that sense, it does not matter to a very large degree as to what the background has been, but the way in which our program has been designed has been, one, to make sure that there is a strong core of courses that students take to develop a good understanding of all the basic areas of work that many economists have worked in over the last 100 years. And then they get ample opportunities to learn about as many disparate subjects as they care to understand. So everything from international trade, money and banking services have been mentioned earlier. I think for the last couple of years, students have also gone into actually taking up courses in programming. So the idea is to sort of build up upon what has been taken up in school, but it doesn't really matter to a very large degree, because we presume that the way that you're supposed to think as somebody who's doing a university level degree is not something that is the objective of many school level courses. So I hope that addresses your concern to a certain degree.
Yes.
May I add something?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Shivali. I am the current graduate batch from BA Economics Honors. So you don't really have to worry a lot, ma'am, because I had also studied economics in 11th and 12th. But when I came to college, they restart and they start teaching you the basics of micro, macro, and various other subjects. And you gradually incorporate a lot of the contemporary economics like you're concerned with. So ours is a very updated course structure. It's not very bookish, and we study from a lot of articles that have been recently published. So it is not like studying some historical economics, but it is very relevant, and we can actually understand the current affairs. And yeah.
Jyoti, let me also thank you so much, Shivali, for that. Jyoti, I think, if I understand correctly your question, there is an underlying aspect of your question, which is that to what extent different ideological biases and prejudices and opinions of individuals will shape the way, let's say, courses, including the subject of economics, is taught. If I understand correctly, part of your question is that as well.
Yes.
And let me answer it head on. Universities are indeed, have individuals who are defined by their own ideologies, and classroom space is not, free from that. I think one of the things which we have tried, and we've done it very well, is that the faculty members will do everything to accurately represent the different, opinions, different different aspects of the evolution of the discipline, and also connect it with the contemporary world. They might have their own views and opinions about those evolutions, but I believe they will be intellectually honest to represent the part of that contemporary evolution in an accurate manner. And the interesting bit is that there are enough people within the university who are also, in a way, ideologically positioned differently. And so there is enough pluralistic ideas within the university, which are represented by different faculty members who end up having very strong views about various things. And so, in a way, one of the things that at least as Vice Chancellor, I am very proud of is that, and I steadfastly guard, is that universities, to a large extent, tend to end up becoming far more left-leaning, and we try to bring it as much more center. And so there is enough, push and pull factors that will give a more well-rounded perspective to students. I mean, the reality is that, and speaking about my own alma mater and many great universities in this country, is that there is a much stronger and a deeply embedded ideological bias and prejudice, which I think doesn't do enough justice to the learning environment. And so we are very fortunate that both in terms of our faculty members and the larger institutional ecosystem, there is a lot of pluralism in the ideas that get represented within the classroom and outside the classroom.
Thank you.
I hope, Jyoti, that answers your question.
Yes, yes.
Next we can have Sai Anurag, then Purvanchi, and then Ashok Tumdi in the sequence. Sai, can you switch on your audio and video?
I have postponed my other meeting. This is far more interesting than the meeting I need to go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir. My name is Anurag. So I wanted to talk about the capstone project in the final year of MA Public Policy.
Okay, we don't get to see you, Anurag. Where are you?
He is here.
Ah, yes, okay.
Can you see me, sir?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, I want to talk about the capstone initiative in the final year of MA Public Policy. I want to know the details about the project.
All right, Sudarshan.
Okay, now the capstone is a very standard feature of public policy programs in the United States. It's always been there for many years, and now more recently in the United Kingdom. What it entails is sending the student who has the aptitude for it. There are some students who choose to do a dissertation, but some students choose to do something more practical and hands-on. So we send that student to what we call a client institution for the entire semester. In fact, a bit more than the semester, because they may take advantage of the semester break and have nearly up to 6 months to work in an institution on whatever projects and assignments that are given by that institution. The idea is you've got to demonstrate to the satisfaction of someone outside of the university that the student is able to apply knowledge and skills acquired over the 3 semesters in that program to the satisfaction and benefit of the client institution. So the assessment really is largely weighted by the grades that would be given by the capstone supervisor. We look at the report and we want to make sure that the supervisors outside of the university are fair to the students. For instance, now in this particular semester, because of COVID, some of the things that were planned by the students to go out into the field, to do certain things, they couldn't do. Some supervisors in the client institutions may say, you have said this and this couldn't be done. And so others may take a more sympathetic view. But whatever grade they give, we moderate it in the light of these kinds of considerations to be fair to the student. But ultimately, the judge of the quality of performance of the student is the client institution. And I must say that I'm very gratified that in almost all of the instances where we sent our students on a capstone, the institutions that took them wanted to offer them a job in that institution. So I don't know if there's any of them in that category in our group, the graduating students, particularly those who had to go through this lockdown situation to elaborate on what I said. But that's basically what the capstone is. It's to get a client institution to judge that a student has acquired the kind of knowledge and skills that are actually useful in a practical context in the real world.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Excellent. Great.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Good evening. Good evening, all of you. I am Anurag's father, sir. Anurag's father.
Okay.
Yeah. Just I have a small question. Can I go ahead, sir?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. He is very much interested in public policy and governance, the program which he has already joined. Just I know the relevance and perspectives of the particular discourse in the present world scenario and their usefulness in their career in the future.
So one thing I will tell you is, I want you to note down a particular round table that I am hosting. Okay. That's a very important for your son and you to watch it. In fact, all of you should consider watching it. It's on, it's called Public Policy, Education and Leadership Colloquium that we are having on the theme, the future of evidence-based policy making, creating knowledge, building institutions and developing expertise. It's going to be held on Wednesday, 15th July at 6:30 p.m. I have with me a very distinguished group of individuals, starting with our own dean of our public policy school. We have Mr. Vikram Mehta, a very distinguished, somebody who has straddled across the world of both corporations as well as public policy. And he graduated from both Oxford University and the Fletcher School. He's the chairman of Brookings India and the senior fellow at Brookings Institution. Then we have Professor Dr. Sanjay Reddy, who is a professor at the New School of Social Research in New York. Then we have Dr. Ratan Rai, who is the director of the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, until recently member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. And also Dr. Jyotsna Jha, who is the director of the Center for Budget and Policy Studies in Bengaluru. We are precisely going to debate and discuss about to what extent public policy education is going and leadership is going to shape the future of evidence-based policy making, why it is important for us to build institutions, why it is important for us to create knowledge that can shape evidence-based policy, why it is important for us to develop expertise, precisely answering your question. The heart of public policy making is not only about speaking truth to power, but also improving the quality of governance. And that's an area where a lot of work can be done. And that's what we are hoping to do. Sudarshan, you want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask Mani if Sandeep Dikshit is with us.
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, then I'd like to invite Sandeep to, as a public policy practitioner and who is familiar with our program, to say a few words to Sai Anurag's father. Sandeep, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you come on the video?
I'll try. Where I am, my connections are not very good. So let me see. My
yeah, your voice is clear, sir.
Okay.
Go
let
ahead.
me speak. Yeah. Thanks. Actually, I just wanted to say, I've had some exposure and experience of working with governments in states at the national level. And prior to my work, my teaching at Jindal, spent many years with various amounts of state governments. I won't get really into the kind of various experiences that we've had, which have led us somehow to start believing that there needs to be people trained in certain ways in which they can, give feedback to people in government, both from the political executive as well as those who were in the administration of government, to look at problems in a fresh light. But something that started emerging, especially from about 20, 25 years ago, was that while governments and people who get elected to various positions and therefore, in a sense, are in policy making roles, have a very strong field background, right? And they bring a lot of knowledge with regard to what things can work and not, what are the specific problems that these people face and what we need to address. And some ways, both their experiences, whereas the ideological background from which these people come, in a sense, helps them choose one option to another. We were finding that over time, the kind of options that were available, the kind of well worked out systems of putting an idea into place, what we call design of a program or design of a scheme, many of that we seem to be lacking between what was the intent and very often what was being seen on ground. Very often you will find people making this, what I find is a rather ridiculous statement, but they say, policies made in air-conditioned rules. Now, I think that's a very silly statement to make because that's not what the real problem is. But the issue there was that somewhere there is a disconnect between the tremendous experience that people who run governments bring to it and the kind of knowledge that is available and who has these tools to knit it together. And that's where, I think a course like public policy, because it attempts and tries to go into this very, very ambitious field of trying to knit knowledge from various sectors or various fields together and try and see if we can build a pattern for students to understand what is it that they could apply or on what manner they could make things useful in the future. I think that's why public policy becomes very, very useful. Dr. Sudarshan gave the example of the fact that our management of COVID, perhaps, if you had people looking at it from a public policy angle, much before you were doing it purely from a health or purely from an economic angle, maybe we would have been able to manage it much better. But this thing applied across to various other policy and program platforms, I think makes the policy of public policy far more alive. Let me also state that I think it's an evolving field, right? I think initially, whenever we find a field that is part practical and part coming from subjects, when we start working on any new field, the way it happened with management many, many years ago, I unfortunately also learned a bit of management, in my younger days. I've also done that foolish thing of an MBA a long time back. But when subjects come anew, they do tend to, first of all, get caught in the let's say in the spheres or in the compartments of different subjects. But over time, just as management has done, it has integrated a lot of the good that various subjects comes and now is actually evolved as a fairly decent field of at least practical knowledge. And I think that is where a thing like public policy is going to work out. Professor Sudarshan, many of the people and we see have been asking in this as to what are the job prospects available, right? I think it's a field where the brave will jump in. I'm not saying it's something where the very conservative students should jump in. I'm being very, very frank. But I think it's when the brave jump in at a time when a new field that has come out of a historical need or a time need. And when the brave jump in, I think it's a great time for people to come into the world of public policy. Governments will need it. Public corporations who are both public in nature as well as private in nature. And I would say public corporations because they are involved in issues that impact large numbers of public. I think they will need people who can, think across from people to organizations, institutions that are working in theory, that are working in teaching, that are working in practical, that are working in design, that are working in policy, that are working in policy implementation. I think a lot of that will start needing people much more from the, let's say, from the realm of public policy. I think it's also a challenge for people teaching public policy. I think we need to get our bootstraps up and make ourselves, frankly speaking, far more competent in the way in which we are designing our subject. But I think that's something that will come over time.
Yes, sir.
Great.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Some more questions?
Yes, we have. Purvanshi, can you unmute your audio and video? Thanks, Purvanshi.
Hello, hello and good evening to all. My name is Purvanshi Singh. I'm a lawyer currently residing in Jaipur. So I'm very keen in joining the Masters in Public Policy course at Jindal Global University. Given the context, I have two questions. There are various international collaboration that I see that Jindal School of Government and Public Policy have. Are all those available to students pursuing MA in public policy? And the second question is that the major reason that I am willing to join and very keen in joining the Masters in Public Policy at JGU is the faculty. So I just want to know how reachable are the faculty for mentoring and for giving advice to the students. So yes.
Well, just the latter part of your question is easy to answer. We are all very accessible in this university. It's very non-hierarchical. The Vice Chancellor is as accessible to an undergraduate student as he is to a dean of school. And because we have a very enviable faculty-student ratio, we can actually devote a fair amount of time to each individual student and care about their concerns. As for our international collaborations, we have a number of them, but I'll invite my colleague, Professor Melinda Chakravarthy, to say a few words about that. Melinda, are you there?
Unmute yourself, Melinda.
I hope I am audible now.
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
So thank you, Sudarshan. I am very happy to announce that JSGP is also engaged in a number of international collaborations, not just at the institutional level, but also at the level of individual scholars. And this year itself, out of 24 students, 15 of our students are doing their internship with an organization called OECD Development Center, which is located at Paris. And they are engaged in international internship with OECD. We have also developed linkages with, there was a question on investment banking, development banking. We have also developed an interrelationship with Islamic Development Bank located in Jeddah, who are also very keen to engage our students. And mind you, so far as any international relationship with OECD Development Center is concerned, JSGP is the first of its kind in the world to set up a relationship with OECD Development Center in providing internship to our students. And there are several courses also which are being offered from JSGP in collaboration with individual scholars from across the globe. So international collaboration is not really a matter of concern for JSGP, but there is also another issue which I must be very careful to mention, that all these things are not just supply driven, they are demand driven as well. If there are interest from the students, more and more international collaborations can be developed given the networking and background of our faculty members. But if the students feel that it should be only supply driven, then the encouragement or incentive for such networking will also be at a lower level at the school level. So I would urge that the students who join, they also show their interest and share their eagerness to participate in some such programs. Some of our students who were there last year from Afghanistan, they have also been absorbed by many Afghan ministry officials as interns and for placement there as well. So international collaboration is not a matter of concern. It's a matter of interest. It's a matter of how our students want to be exposed to the international situation.
Thank you, Melinda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to add that there are 3 types of student-related international collaborations. Okay, and we will get some data to you so that you understand more specifically what we are talking. First is something called student exchange program, where our students have an opportunity to pursue up to 1 semester at an overseas institution. And we will tell you more. I don't have this information offhand, but specifically which countries and which institutions with whom JSGP has partnerships, if any, as far as student exchange programs are concerned. Second is what is known as short-term study abroad program. We have at least 8 to 10 short-term study abroad programs which are designed with a view for our students to take up these positions in different universities, including with Harvard, with Berkeley, with Fletcher, with Oxford, and many others. And we will also tell you about what are the ones which are more directly suitable for, let's say, you as an MA Public Policy student. The third is what is known as dual degree program. This is about the classic 1+1 type of program, where after 1 year of studies, you can pursue a master's in another institution, a 1-year program, and at the end of the 2 years, you can actually get 2 degrees from 2 institutions. And we will, I'll work with Ankur and others to send you some proper data surrounding this so that you have a better sense of the specific international partnerships that are available for the students of the.
Thank you, sir. This addresses all my concerns that
Thank
I was
you.
having.
Thank you, Purvanshi.
Next, Ashok Tamti. We can take Mancha. Mancha.
Good evening, sir. I'm Ashok.
Ashok Tumpati. Okay.
Yeah, Ashok Tumpati. Okay. Sir, I have applied for BA Social Science and Policy. Okay. So as I gone through the curriculum, it was it was mentioned that the course helps with solving real life problems, and also it emphasized on internships. So I want to know what kinds of internships that are offered, like that will be part of in the course, and how are we going to solve the real life problem?
No,
before you leave, before you answer, I need to leave now. I have a 6 p.m. Hard stop. For all the students and parents who have been part of this exercise, it was fascinating for me personally to be here. I mean, it's been 2 hours and it's been an absolutely engaging discussions. And I know all of you, I'll see you on campus sooner than later. We will keep you informed about the plans as to when we are going to begin the semester, and also how it's going to happen. But in the meantime, make the best use of your experience. It's going to be a very intellectually rigorous exercise. So this is the only break you are having before you begin a new chapter in your life. So congratulations to all of you, including parents. Thank you, Dean and faculty members. And I look forward to seeing all of you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, sir, for your precious time and addressing the new students.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So thank you, Ashok, for asking a question about a program that we are going to begin. All the faculty have put their heads together, and we've designed a program of a kind that doesn't exist anywhere else, in India at any rate. And it's a program that draws insights. It's meant to teach the students who complete it enough insights from multiple disciplines. Now, earlier we emphasized that for public policy making, you need insights from not just economics or politics, but anthropology and culture and so on. So in a way, this is an undergraduate program that lays the foundation for a progression to a very high quality public policy advanced program. But even without that, it is a program where we've consciously avoided naming any of the courses that are taught over the program by any of the disciplines that are regarded as social science. So you won't find economics or sociology or psychology in it, but you'd find that we are addressing basic problems in a way. So there is a whole set of problems related to the economy, where obviously insights from economics would be valuable, but as somebody emphasized, behavioral economics draws a lot from psychology, so that interdisciplinary approach will be there. There are problems that are related to social conflict, particularly in a segmented society like ours, with caste divisions, minorities, different regions, different languages. India, incidentally, is the most diverse country in the world on any of these dimensions. And so obviously how to deal with conflicts amongst people is a challenge, and it crops up in all kinds of ways. And therefore insights from a number of social science disciplines are needed to be able to handle that. So that's to give you and then we also have another foundation, which is research methods and skills that are applicable wherever and whatever walk of life you might go into. So some of these foundational things is what has informed our curriculum. But I'll ask my colleague, Professor Swagato Sarkar, to say a few words about it.
Hello, thank you, Sudarshan, and thank you all the participants for staying with us. So just to give you a brief overview of what is this program about is, in a way, also we look back into our own experience of being a student. We all had a very long student career as we embarked from undergraduate to PhD. What we realized as we moved that when you are taught one particular discipline at a bachelor's level, say whether political science or sociology, economics, or any of these, if you decide to move into fields which are, combines one or two of those, say for instance, you were interested in understanding household economics, then you will need to understand how household is structured, what are the gender relationship, and how various resources are allocated within that, and so on. So immediately you are moving beyond your understanding of economics into an understanding of household, how household gets reproduced, so on. So every other field that you can take to research, you'll find that you need something extra. And sometimes what happens that if your undergraduate program, I'm not saying that undergraduate programs don't train, but there is a possibility that they might not train you to understand those processes. So in a way, then you become slightly monodimensional. So what we tried to do from that experience, taking into view that in the future, you will become an interdisciplinarian, which means that you will work in the intersection of disciplines. To do that, we thought, what are the things which are the most essential, most fundamental of every discipline in social science? And then distill those out and try to see that how we combine them. So then we thought that since most of the time we end up studying society as social scientists, we analyze it, we try to understand how it forms, how it functions, what are the institutions involved in that, what are the relationships, power relationship, the various dynamics, and the kind of changes that can happen. And public policy is the framework within which these are formally structured, this kind of changes and the interventions into that. And that's how we came up with this idea of moving beyond disciplines. So we are not simply doing interdisciplinary study, but even beyond that, that can you create something of an unified field. So that's why we don't call it BA Social Sciences, but we call it BA Social Science, that if science could be one. At the same time, it might seem that then are you not, overburdening the young minds with theories? So that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is that train you, and I think that has been underlined by all the speakers before me, that the emphasis that this university provides in every program that it has, and particularly our own school, is to clear your fundamentals, to have a very solid grounding. It's like building, right? When you are constructing a building, you need a very solid foundation. Then only you can have many floors above that. If your foundation is weak, you might like to live in Mukesh Ambani's Antilla kind of a building, very jazzy, fancy building. But if the foundation is weak, you cannot actually have that multi-floors. So we need that very, very strong foundation. So that's we have been doing it. You can do thousands of internships, and capstone and go to various organizations. All of that you can do. But if your foundations are not weak, you will not fly.
Thank you, Sugato.
Your helicopter will not stand on your rooftop. If you want a helicopter to land on your rooftop, you need a very solid foundation, and that's what.
Thank you. Thank you. I just have Melinda. I wanted to quickly pitch in on this. Melinda.
Thank you. I would just like to put it in a very simple format. You take the different branches of social sciences, economics, politics, sociology. Each of them consider a human being as an unit of analysis. But when a political scientist considers a human being, he or she considers only the political decision-making process of the individual. His theory allows him to do that. An economist considers about the economic decisions taken by that same individual. But the methodology that they have developed does not allow him to look into the political decisions of that individual being taken simultaneously. The same is true for sociology methodology as well. But in reality, each individual is simultaneously taking some political decisions, some economic decisions, and some social decisions. And the fundamental basis of BA Social Science is to let you understand as to how simultaneously a decision maker goes through all these three or even psychological decisions. So all these methodological dichotomy across the different units of social science, even though they exist at the theoretical level, at the level of practice, an individual derives information and knowledge and decisions from all these perspectives. And so when you want to solve a real life problem, you cannot separate out these different social sciences in terms of their disciplinary domains. You require some ways to link them up. And the
Thank you very much.
And the objective of this course is exactly that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Melindo. Now listen, we've come to the end nearly, but I wanted to ask the president and the vice president of our student council. See, we've had a very intellectual discussion, but all of you who are listening or planning to come to join our university need to get some perspective about the feel of the place, the ambience, what it's like to be here. So I want Subhash and Mehna, who are representing our students and who are going to leave the campus, having graduated, to have the last word in this session for the benefit of those prospective students, because we may kind of go on being intellectual, and of course we have an interest in promoting the university and to make it a great institution. So we emphasize whatever we have done, but really we exist for the sake of students. And so they ought to have the last word and pronounce a verdict that is important to prospective students. So go ahead. Meghna, will you start?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Hi. So I'm Meghna, and I'm one of the graduating students from the public policy course. So I was on campus for about a year and a half, and then in my final semester, I worked on my capstone. I think most of the academic concerns have been looked after and spoken about by all the professors. So I'll give you a little bit of a taste of what student life really is. Especially for a master's student, I think whenever you're going for a master's program, whether you're going to DU or wherever, it's not really expected of you to be very involved in student life engagements. You're expected to just sit and work on your academics, and you're not really given much exposure to anything else, which very surprisingly and very happily so was not the case at Jindal. I mean, there is no demarcation there. We have so many societies for us. And I think there's a very important part of the student life, because you're away from Delhi, you're in a campus, you're in a residential campus. So it's really important for you to at any point be engaged with a lot of different things. So there's always something happening. You have movie screenings, you have discussions, you have plays, you have
so many different sports that you could be involved in. So I think there is never a dull moment on campus. There are about 8,000 students at any point. So you're always engaging with people from different backgrounds and different schools, and just it's really vibrant, and which is not something I expected as a master's student, but I'm so glad that I got to experience the student life in its essence for another 2 years, which I think was very, very important for me.
Thank you. What about Suhas? Give us your perspective.
Hey guys, so first of all, congrats for getting into like either the BA or an MA program. I recently just finished and graduated my bachelor's in economics from Jindal. So the student life at Jindal, it's really dynamic. Like it changes on a day-to-day basis. Like you interact with so many people, so many students, like Meghna said, from different backgrounds, from different schools. Like my really close friends are actually in the law school. Can you imagine? So even though like I'm not in class with them or anything, like they're my roommates, they're everything. Like we do everything together, and there's just so much to do on campus. We have an Amul joint where you can like go and get the famous aloo tikki sandwich with cheese. You can go to Tapri. They have amazing chai. The gym is really good. You know, it's really centrally located there. The field is pretty big. So like if you're an athlete who's interested in like football or running or cricket, like the field is actually pretty big for that. Basketball, tennis, they have all that stuff. A really good swimming pool as well. They have a lot of social events. We have two big events that we do every year. BSO Mill. I think a lot of you should know BSO Mill and Magnus as well. BSO Mill is our cultural fest where we bring in like artists, like top artists. We've had Chai Mettos, Pratik Kuhad, we had Shan, we've had so many Ritvits, we've had so many amazing artists come to BSO Mill, and Magnus is also pretty big. Even though it is a sporting event, it's sort of is also like a cultural event as well, where we bring in like artists and people to perform and stuff. So those are like really, really big fests and things that we look forward to in each term and semester. There are a lot of things to do off campus as well. Like Murtal is literally like half an hour away. You can get like some of the best dhaba over there. Like there is Sukhdev, there is Meghna, help me, Shivali, help me if you know any other places.
Never a dull moment on campus is what I think Suhas is trying to.
Yeah.
If you want to leave campus, there's plenty available. You have Ashoka right there. You're always.
Ashoka is right there. Yeah. Yellow Box and other places are nearby. You can get samosas and chai and stuff nearby.
It's good. So yeah. So for a lot of you that are scared that you're going to be away from Delhi, you're going to be in a slightly secluded place. I don't think that should be too much.
There's a really good shuttle service that gets you to Delhi on a day-to-day basis, and on the weekend, whenever you want, you can just leave campus with your friends, go to Delhi for the day and come back, go shopping, go sightseeing, go do whatever you want. Also, there are regular treks and events that are planned by students and by people to go to like Himalayan treks, Himachal treks, Kasol treks. I've gone on 3 personally. I love trekking. I love camping out in this. You know, there was this one time I went out trekking with some friends, and like when we went there was no snow. We trekked, and like the next day there was snow everywhere. So, you know, I like imagine getting up and like trekking back to the city in snow. Insane. So like we have a lot of experiences like that, a lot of cool things that are planned out. You can get into a lot of society. So I personally was in Rotaract for the first 2 years. I was the director of international services and then the treasurer. So I started my own initiative as well called Operation Noor, where there's a local village there called Jateri, where we donated solar lamps to like villagers who had limited or no access to electricity. So like there are a lot of social initiatives that you can get into. There's also the AWS, Animal Welfare Society, those who like pets, dogs. Like there's a huge campus gathering around pets and dogs. So like if you're an animal lover, you must join AWS. I can put you through to someone who really likes that. Social Service Society is great. There was a school paper that was running called The Blunt, which I wrote for. Like that, there are many societies you can join. Even in JSGP, you have the Public Policy Club, you have Soch, which showcases like documentaries and movies and has professors like just come and give their commentaries on what's going on and their thoughts and stuff. I like it's a very intellectually stimulating debate that we get into. So there are a lot of things to do there, good research centers.
A lot of research.
Yeah, a lot
I
of
think we
research
got a lot of
centers.
questions in that as well.
We have with us cultural secretary, former culture secretary of Jindal Student Council. Shivali, you can share your experiences as well.
Okay, I will quickly go over it. So I think Suhas and Meghna have already told you about majority of what a campus life is like. And honestly, it's never dull. And it's just the choice you make. You just have to balance your academics with the right set of interests like that you have. Like I'm a trained classical dancer, so I was in the dance society. So that's where I used to perform, and that was like my stress buster or whatever. Then I'm also a basketball player, so I was a part of the team as well. So there are multiple things that you can do. You can also I mean, if you're good at academics, your professors would probably want you as your TA, which I was. I also have experience in that. So yeah, I mean, it's really like a holistic experience being on the it's a residential campus, so it's like a very different experience, and it helps you evolve as a person. Like it's a very essential and crucial experience that everyone should have in their life. So I think it's like really worth it. Everyone should join.
Yeah, yeah,
I think at the end of the
absolutely.
day,
Yeah.
it's also very important to remember what you're there for, which is to get your degree. So do full justice to it. But at any point, should you need help coping with living in a residential campus, help is always there.
Right.
So
And you can talk to your seniors. All your professors are super approachable. Like I've walked into so many professors' offices, like just with an appointment to discuss random stuff about research, life, career, anything. Like I know that I've walked into Professor Avanindra's office, Manini ma'am's office, Devijit sir's office, even Krishanu sir's office. I walked into multiple professors' office just to talk about random things, like about research opportunities, internships, future plans, how to pave your path going forward, whatever. And they're really approachable, and yeah, you can talk about whatever you want with them. It's not like, okay, we're at work, don't disturb us outside of class. Like you can just shoot them a mail, they'll tell you when to come to the office, and you can just swing by and talk about literally anything you want.
The
And that way,
teaching
yeah.
methodology is quite unique in Jindal. Like we learned a subject through a game with Sandeep sir. Like we learned about the rural economy of India, and it was the most fun game ever. And I still remember concepts about that. And we also have so many field trips, so many surveys, so many research that we're supposed to conduct. So we actually understand concepts and economic concepts at a grassroots level, and it's not just theoretical, practical, mugging up, or anything of that kind. It's all very, you could relate to it, you could understand it a very basic sense. I mean, it's like anyone can do it. Like you just need to put your mind to it, and all the help, facilities, faculty, they're all just there for you. So.
Yeah, I'd just like to add also, like at Jindal, we also have a lot of international conferences and meets happening. And these organizations, like the international organizations like UNESCO, UNHRC, UNDP, they are actually knowledge partners to a lot of these organizations, as well as training institute. So you get to become a part. So I was a part of UNESCO MGIEP, and I was a youth ambassador representing India. So that kind of exposure to the international stage is also quite prominent at Jindal. So I mean, that gives you a very good perspective as to how policy making or any of the disciplines, would be represented in India or at any international stage. So that is also very important.
Also, like if you look at the places where people have been placed after graduation, like I know I can talk personally from the Bachelor's of Economics part. A lot of students, like even our seniors, have gotten placed in really good higher education institutes like LSE, Duke. I personally got into George Washington University. Like there are a lot of students from Geneva Institute of International Development Studies. I know like 2-3 people who have gotten in there. A lot of students have gone into really, really good institutes. Utrecht in the Netherlands, like all over the world, Canada, UK, Europe. There are 2 students that are going to Australia, Monash and Melbourne and all that. So like your seniors, like I'll tell Mala ma'am to like share my email, and the other students, if they want, like you guys can get in touch with us if you want to talk about anything related to the school or opportunities within and after the school. That's also great. We can also put you in touch with like our classmates and people so that you can get a better understanding of what you want to do and where you want to go. Like if you're interested in like doing research or investment banking, like someone had stated, or data science also, there's someone who's really good in data science. So like that, there are a lot of people who you can talk to. It's not just restricted here. So Money Ma'am, if you could like just share like our contact, we'll definitely get them in touch with like people.
Thank you all of you. Money, we are in your hands. Shall we wind
Yes,
up?
sir. Yes, sir.
Because we have other things happening in
the next group.
So I want to thank all my colleagues who've joined. We thought we'd start with a structured program, and as always happens, university, we quickly changed it around. And I think that was a good move because we were able to be more responsive to questions and concerns. But we are all available, and with the guidance of the admissions office, we can answer individual queries at greater length and address some concerns. But I'd like to end by saying that it must be evident to all of you who have listened to this program that we are a happy community, and that frame of mind is very conducive to learning and to creativity and to interpersonal relationships of all kinds. And it's a lovely green campus. And I've been very lucky and privileged to be locked down in a campus with peacocks, quails, miners, bird song, green trees. It's a very desirable place to be in. So thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time, and students for their interaction with the new batch, our distinguished professors who took the time out to address our new batch and make them acquaint with the new programs as well as the existing programs. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.